بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونشكره على ما هدانا ونصلي ونسلم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of here and the hereafter. We praise Him and we thank Him for the guidance that we receive from Him. We convey our greeting to the Holy Prophet of Islam, the most noble of all prophets, and his pure progenies. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to welcome all of you as our viewers and listeners to the first of this holy month class or lecture on Quran, inshallah. As it has become a habit of everyone who speaks during the lockdown, I pray that you are all safe and staying inside as much as you can. Quran constitutes a very important book for the Muslims. For me, it is the only book of revelation that is available today. The reason for such a belief is that both, at least within the Abrahamic tradition, it's a fact, historical fact, that we have no access to the revelation that came to Prophet Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam. Neither do we have access to the revelation or the book that came down to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. As far as Prophet Musa and Prophet Isa, historians have clearly established, without shadow of a doubt, that the current books available in the hand of both the Jewish community and the Christian community have nothing to do with what we consider to be the Torah and the Injil, the Torah for Prophet Musa as the tablet in which revelation came to him, and Prophet Isa, the Injil that the revelation came to him. These two books, we respect them without shadow of a doubt, but from an analytical point of view, they are not the original books. The tablets, if you read Jewish history, were destroyed, at least broken in the first attack on Jerusalem by the king Bukht al-Nasr from Babylonia, and when he took the Jewish community from Jerusalem as prisoners of war to Babel in Iraq. And whatever was left of that book as broken tablets, when the second temple was built during the early part of current history, ultimately was destroyed with the Greek setting fire to it and razing it to the ground. So whatever was left is gone. What we have is the compilation of what people, rabbis and religious leaders could remember to put together once they realized that they are going back to Jerusalem, and they have to come up with some kind of a guideline, a book for the community. The Pentateuch that we use, we hear quite often being referred to as the Torah, is not the original Torah. As far as the Christian books, the four Gospels in the New Testament has suffered similar kind of consequence. We certainly, when we go back to our own references and literature, particularly the Holy Quran, it clearly states that Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wasalam received a book, a revelation, right? And that book was called Injil. But none of the authors of at least the four major Gospels lived during the time of Prophet Isa. They were not his disciples, and this is not something that figment of my imagination. It's something that is available in the critical and biblical studies. At most, the earliest gospel was about, again, there is a debate as 35 to 50 years after, whether we call it the crucifixion of Prophet Isa as they claim, or the ascension of Prophet Isa as we claim. Certainly 35 to 50 years after the life of Prophet Isa, they began to start writing, and they collected these ideas from various sources that now biblical studies talks about: the J source, the E source, the P source, etc., etc. So none of these books, at best, we can claim that they are inspiration. But truly, if we were to speak of revelation, there is only one book that is a true revelation, and that is the Holy Quran. So when we come to particularly in interfaith dialogue, is one of the challenges that we have when we talk about revelation, exactly what it means. And I would like to also bring to the attention of our viewers, in your discussion and talk to other people of other faith, please don't compare Quran with the New Testament or with the Pentateuch or the current books of Torah that is taken by the Jewish community. They are not the same. For us, Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has become to exist in a text. So the text embodies that word, the divine word. Our literature clearly states that Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wasalam also was the word of God represented in flesh. So what we have, both of them are the word of God. And if we want to compare, we have to compare Quran with Jesus himself, rather than either with the New Testament or something else. Particularly, this is relevant in our debate or discussion with the Christian community. For us, Quran is a reference book for the lexicographers. It is a competent authority for the jurist, because we have the four fundamental principles of where the jurists refer to establish a juristical opinion. Quran is number one. Sunnah, in the way we explain it, there is a difference between Shia and Sunni regarding the definition of Sunnah. Al-Aql and Ijma. Again, our definition of Ijma is a little bit different. So it is an authority for the jurist. People of letter, they look at the Holy Quran as a model. An instruction for the preacher. You try to look at any preacher, starting any presentation, discussion, talk, without either referring from a verse or a passage from the Holy Quran, most often, and if not, some kind of a hadith. And an inspiration for the moralist, and a guideline for the believer. But most important of all, where we miss the point here, Quran also is a book of action, that we really need to act according to the Quran. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi, in his the book or the wasiyah that gave to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, he has a section regarding the Quran. Allah fil Quran, la yasbiqukum bil amal bihi ghayr. Be most diligent and most attentive in acting according to the Quran. Don't allow Quran to be purely pieces of papers in your hand, devoid of its principles, while others act upon its principles and you are holding the book. And we saw similar kind of things happen in the Battle of Siffin when Muawiyah called for the Quran to be the judge. They put them on the spear. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi rejected those pieces of paper to be the Quran. Quran that supports injustice is not the Quran. And he said, I am the living Quran. So pieces of paper and everything else, we must make a distinction between them. Although Quran is an ancient book in a sense that it was revealed over 1,400 years ago, 1,440 years ago, but it is not considered to be some kind of an ancient literature in the sense that we look at the books, the New Testament or the Pentateuch, or which is the Torah in our time. They, as I explained, their compilation is different. The fact that it was revealed in the past, it is considered to be a living miracle for us Muslims. And Quran constantly challenges, not only challenged the Jahiliyyah society to bring something close to it, it challenges every society that comes, that let's bring something if you can. So it is a living miracle for the Holy Prophet, and it goes on. Tonight, I want to focus on a number of concepts as a prelude, or call it an intro, or some kind of a preamble to the discussion that we are going to have. These concepts will be outlined tonight, and then inshallah, during every night we attempt to look. We start from the end of the Holy Quran, from the chapter 114, Surah Nas, and we move gradually one chapter each night. Hopefully, if we can we can address it and unpack whatever exists in that chapter. As soon as we start opening the Quran, in the light of what I have stated, we find ourselves confronted with a challenge. Our limitation on one side, the fact that how can a contingent being that limited in all aspects of his or her life perceive the greatness of a speech of the absolute reality? And exactly for this reason, Quran uses metaphor, mathal, amthala, and allegories to try to make this the concept presented in various chapters and passages understood to the listener. Yet at the same time, we have a number of ahadith that merits and emphasizes on the recitation of the Quran and the fact that we have to contemplate its meaning and its goal. So that's by itself sets the challenge. Because the Quran, and this is something Allama Tabatabai, the beginning, the first volume of his Al-Mizan starts with, because the Quran combines various concepts, literally, grammar, philosophy, stylistic, science, irfan and mysticism, etc., etc. It is necessary for a person that begins the journey into Quran and the endeavor to try to mufassir or exegese it, to proceed with caution. Because otherwise, we don't want to impose our own understanding on the Quran. We want the Quran to guide us through, so we will navigate through the Quran by the guidance that we receive from the Quran. That's on one hand. On the other hand, the person who wants to accept this responsibility must be a philosopher, when to deal with wherever there are challenges of philosophy. Uh, an ethicist, where there is an issue of moral. A jurist when dealing with jurisprudence, and etc., etc. So this is on the second hand. So we have not only the fact that trying to understand the Quran, we are limited, our limitation and the vastness of the Quran. The fact that Quran combines and blends various concepts. The person who wants to address or give tafsir so that you do justice to it, you have to acquire a huge knowledge from various disciplines. And this is why it creates its own complexity here. And for the tafsir, we really don't have a tafsir or exegesis that brings together, molds and fuses together all aspects. So one could say this tafsir is the most perfect tafsir that one could choose. Gives adequate cover to philosophy, at the same time to the juristical issue, at the same time to the moral and science issue, at the same time to the irfan and mystical issue, to various concepts that Quran has come as a guideline. Hudan lin-nas. You open the book, Surah Al-Baqarah clearly states, this is a book that is going to be a guideline, guidance for the humanity. So the best way that we can deal with here, and the most popular way, at least in the last 30, 40 years, has been because of this complexity, because of the fact that we are limited in our understanding. People have opted towards what we call thematic approach to the interpretation of Quran, at-Tafsir al-Mawdu'i. There are a number of books now available in the market written by various scholars, both Shias and Sunnis, regarding the thematic approach. And even in the academia, Fazlur Rahman was one of them that wrote a book about thematic approach to the Quran, and a number of others. So this has become something that being addressed. So let us begin something with the historical perspective or background about the Holy Quran. Immediately we come to find out that there are, I would like again here bring to the attention of our viewers that there are a number of concepts when it comes to the Quran that the Shias and the Sunnis, both schools of thoughts, do not see eye to eye. There are various opinions here. Number one, for example, regarding whether Quran was revealed during, we all accept that Mab'ath, the time when the Holy Prophet ﷺ was granted the proclamation to become the Holy Prophet. And the first verse, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق, which is in the current composition and order of the Quran, is chapter 91. This was revealed to the Holy Prophet. When was it, Mab'ath? The Shia consider that to be on the 27th of Rajab. The Sunnis, on the other hand, somehow limited or not being able to resolve this complex issue, said they believe that it is the month of Ramadan. So Mab'ath happens to be during the month of Ramadan for this. We believe that during the proclamation or Mab'ath, the first verse or the first chapter, few verses of the first chapter was revealed to the Holy Prophet, where he was commanded to read, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق, in the name of your Lord who has created. And that chapter became the opening chapter for the birth of Islam that came to change the entire world, and still going on. The metamorphosis and the changing that is happening due to the presence of Islam as a world religion, and what it's doing in the contemporary life or contemporary world. Still we can write quite a few texts about it. So, first surah, according to us, it was Surah Al-Alaq that was revealed to the Holy Quran during that Mab'ath, the proclamation, and it happened to be for us, the way we understand it, on the 27th of Rajab. I know that, as I said, there are others that claim that it was during the month of Ramadan. There is a question here. Since this was an oral transmission, in a sense that Jibreel alayhi salam would come with a message, with a wahy, and give it to the Holy Prophet, and the Holy Prophet would read what he has learned from that message to others, to his community at the time. How comes that we have now a text called the Quran? How was it compiled? And was it compiled during the life of the Holy Prophet or after? Again, another issue here which is debated between the Shias and the Sunnis. For us, we believe that during the life of the Holy Prophet, just before his death, the Quran was complete in its current form. No change. In the Sunni literature, there are debates both in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim that it was a kind of disorganized writing by the scribes that needed to be put together and a proper compilation to be organized. If we were to believe this, it opens a can of worms that we really have no answer to it. If there was a period in which Quran in its current form did not exist, how can we, for the sake of our faith, be sure that what we have is the complete Quran and nothing was missed? And this is, by the way, one of the critique that Western Orientalists have against Islam and against particularly the Holy Quran and its compilation. And they cite these ahadith that exist in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim and a few others, that look, this is your own book that says there was a fear, whether it was during the first Khalif, second Khalif, or third Khalif, there was a fear that these scribes would spread around the Muslim world, and by their death, whatever they have learned in their heart would vanish. That necessitated the correct or correction or the right step to be taken and some kind of a compilation to take place. That's number one. So with regard to the compilation, we differ. With regard to the number of scribes, how many were there? Whether there were 4, 7, 8, and more, up to 40. There is a debate again between the two schools of thoughts. Allama Tabatabai, Marhum Ma'rifat, and a few others within the Shia, and Sheikh Tusi and others, they opt for maximum 7. While we have a number of literature in the Sunni tradition, they go as far as 42. So this is one of the debate that we have. Another debate that again comes, since we are talking about the compilation, did the Holy Prophet know how to write and read, or didn't he? Certainly there are a number of verses we have in the Holy Quran that calls him Ummi. Ummi, from a linguistic point of view, means a number of things that he did not read. And this is again another debate. Whether he was capable of reading but he did not read, where most the Shias, or at least Allama Tabatabai, Sheikh Tusi, and few others opt towards that. They say the fact that the Holy Prophet, exemplified the most perfect specimen of human being, there should not be anything shortcoming in him. So by the divine blessing, he knew how to read, but he never practiced it. Others say no, because of the literal interpretation of the word, then we have to consider him to be illiterate, literally. So the only way he could explain to the scribes is through oral passing, which means Jibreel came, gave him the wahy, he learned it, and then collected or called for the scribes and read it to them, and they began writing it down. The second issue here is, as I said, the debate between the order of the Holy Quran. If, as a consequence of the compilation during the life of the Holy Prophet or after, the current order, is it the one that the Holy Prophet agreed with, or is it something that later on people put together in the current order? If we opt that the current order is the same order that the Holy Prophet ordered and instructed or commanded, we start the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Hamd, then Surah Al-Baqarah, Al Imran, and continue until we end with Surah Al-Nas. If that was the order, then it must have happened during the Holy Prophet's time. Because there are, as I explain in a minute, there are verses that the main part, the bigger chunk or part of it takes place in Mecca. And then few verses are revealed during Medina period. And then the Holy Prophet commands the scribes to put them in under the section or the chapter that was revealed in Mecca. We deal with this, inshallah, tomorrow night when we address the order and nazm in the Holy Quran and where it comes from. Regarding the revelation, I said that there is a difference between the Shias and the Sunnis, whether it was Mab'ath during the 27th of Rajab or Ramadan, whether Quran came in one night, we call it Laylatul Qadr, or during an extended period of time. We certainly know historically from the life of the Holy Prophet that Quran gradually came over 23 years period. So there is a gradual process. And we have a number of verses in the Holy Quran indicating a holistic revelation. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatin mubarakah. In one night. Or inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. So how do we bring these two notions or two facts together? On the one hand, the life of the Holy Prophet, over 23 years, we have constant revelation taking place. And yet, there are verses in the Holy Quran clearly indicating that the revelation took place in one night. So the scholars have, at least within the Shia tradition, has opted that Quran in one night, the Laylatul Qadr or in Laylatul Mubarakah, however that is defined, holistically came to the heart of the Holy Prophet. The entire Quran was revealed to the heart of the Holy Prophet during that night. But yet, as Quran had to answer to a number of situations over 23 years, gradual revelation also took place. This is why in one instance, at least, the Holy Prophet is commanded not to hasten in reciting the Holy Quran, the verse, before the wahy is complete. That clearly indicates that there was something in his heart that relates to the holistic revelation of the Holy Quran. Once we have accepted the fact that over 23 years period, this gradual revelation took place, the 23 years of prophethood, the Holy Prophet, or prophecy of the Holy Prophet, can be divided into two phases. The Mecca phase and the Medina phase. 13 years of the Mecca phase, the initial revelation, and almost just about 10 years of the Medina phase. So the revelations that took place in Mecca, if we open the Holy Quran and we read the chapters right at the beginning, before you start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it says Surah Makkiyah or Surah Madaniyah. These are clearly indicating. But as I indicated a few minutes ago, when it says Surah Madaniyah or Surah Makkiyah, it doesn't mean the whole of the surah was revealed in Mecca, because there are instances that Few verses were revealed in Medina, and the Holy Prophet commanded the scribes to put them on the different chapter, which was Makki chapter. Because of this Mecca-Madani relationship, and the fact that the Mecca period or phase had its own unique characteristics of people, the revelation that takes place during Mecca has its own unique feature. The Holy Prophet, the beginning of the proclamation in Mecca, had to deal with the Jahiliyyah mindset on three fundamental principles. Number one, Tawheed, God, the concept of God. Number two, concept of prophethood and the seal of prophethood. Number three, Ma'ad and the hereafter. These are the three major issues. Also, from a social point of view, severe criticism of idol worshipping as a principle that divides the community. Clan mentality and idol worshipping, these were two fundamental principles that Islam attacked severely at the beginning, but not because these are the only thing, because they were the most obvious manifestation of principles that turn society into a dysfunctional society and divide them. And number three, so the issue of wealth distribution and unequal wealth distribution and idol worshipping that divided and fractured society, as well as clan mentality, these are something that Quran, that early period of Islam, or at least the Mecca revelation, had to deal with. And naturally, in such society that doing good deed was considered or abhorrent and rejected by a society that primarily worked and lived for the sake of the wealth and power, as we see it today in our capitalistic society, Islam had to encourage people to do good deeds. So we see these fundamental principles come up in chapters that are revealed in Mecca. Deals with fundamental principles. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, one of the famous chapters that was revealed during Mecca. The hereafter, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا, reminding people that this world is going to come to an end, and it's going to come to an end with a bang. And shaking, إِذَا زُلْزِلَ. If you look at the last juz of Quran, the 30th, particularly as you move towards the latter part of the juz, verses of the Holy Quran and chapters become explicit or graphic in reminding us of what happens in the hereafter and how this world is going to end. Whether how we are being guided on the day of judgment and how are we going to be questioned regarding our deed, how the witnesses that we have are going to come, how the book itself is going to open up in front of us, books of our deeds. اقرأ كتابك. You don't need somebody else to tell you. Once the veil is removed from your eyes, you can see the reality of what you have done during your life. These are part of the issues that address. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. This is another verse of Mecca. Swear by time, humans will be in a loss unless they take the necessary precaution. Faith and doing good deed. These are issues. We see as we move towards Madani chapters and verses, we see a completely different shift and dynamic in them. Now, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has come to Medina to establish the first state or the community, or call it ummah. More social, more governance principle, more responsibility towards others, etc., etc. These are the ones that come into prominence in the Surah of Medina. So, in various surahs that we are going to address, this issue of being Madani or Makki is going to come up, something that we really need to understand. We will continue, I will endeavor to cover one chapter, at least since we have started from the end of the Quran, one chapter each night. But sometimes we may not be able to do so because of the complexity of the content of the chapter. The way I intend to address this is to begin with, similar to today, with an intro preamble that necessitates or at least clarifies some of the issues. I would start with some kind of a principle about that, dealing with these issues, and then move to the Holy Quran. As I explained the verses within the chapter, if there are points, concepts that need to be addressed, I'll try to address them, even if it means pushing the rest of the chapter to another night. We may be able to finish at least the surahs al-Qasar, the short surahs, during the early part of month of Ramadan. But if we get to latter part and the length of the chapter is going to be extended, we may not be able to cover all of them. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that would grant every one of us the blessing and the opportunity to be able to go through this month of fasting. I know we are going through testing time. I've heard today that the governor has extended the lockdown for another 2 weeks until the middle of May. Unfortunately, the news that is coming out of various countries, starting from China up to Europe and here, is that because people did not pay attention and take this seriously, now the second phase, and possibly, I hope not, the third phase is going to happen. So, sisters and brothers, please don't go out if it's not necessary. Stay at home and try to use the opportunity. I know it's a challenging time. Turn it into opportunity. If under normal circumstance we were not able to spend enough time on the recitation of the Quran, now that we are staying at home, develop a plan for the month of Ramadan that we recite Quran as much as possible. Develop a plan for extra prayer. Develop a plan for our social and moral obligation. Because as I said in my khutbatul Jum'ah this morning, if we go through the month of Ramadan and the fasting of this month does not change drastically or reasonably our life, we are at a loss. As Khutbah Sha'baniyah said it, and Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salam alayhi, at the end of Khutbah Sha'baniyah said, Ya Rasulullah, ma afdalul a'mal fi hadha al-shahr? فقال يا أبا الحسن أفضل الأعمال في هذا الشهر الورع عن محارم الله. Stay away from sinfulness, and let's hope by Allah's grace and mercy that we are given the opportunity and the privilege to end this month together. Let's again, as we get to the end of tonight's lecture, pray together for the protection, the safeguard, and the health of those who put their lives in front to protect us, whether it's the doctors, the nurses, healthcare workers, the police, the fire department, anybody else, even our teachers that are prepared to go to the school or organize their time and teach our children as they are sitting at home. May Allah protect them and grant them and reward them amply, inshallah. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.